All right, what's up, YouTube? What's up, Husker Nation? This is Patrick Joy with Real Men Wear Kills TV, and we're talking the Nebraska versus Houston Christian football game. I was going to do this yesterday, but then I was like, I'm watching the boxing match. I was going to be watching the Canelo Crawford match last night too, and I wanted to tie that in a little bit too with this video, given that Terrence Bud Crawford is from Omaha, Nebraska. I want to tie that in as well. So, but first we're going to get into. By the time it got over, we had to go to bed because we can get to church and all this stuff. And I'm actually going to do another video after this one. Bear with me. I'm a little under the weather today. Nothing serious, just my stomach's all messed up right now. Anyways, let's get into the game. Nebraska won 59-7, so it wasn't the barn burner blowout I thought it was going to be. I contribute this largely to early in the second half, Nebraska really putting in a lot of the backups, the second, third, fourth string players, getting them some playing experience and some playing time, which is a good thing. One, gives us a chance to look at at the backups, but also it gives us a chance to, it gives those players a chance to, get some experience, get some time on the field, that sort of thing. And honestly, Houston Christian's one touchdown. I remember seeing their one touchdown yesterday and going, they got lucky. They got really, really lucky. And, I think one of the commentators said that the guy who scored the touchdown, what was his name? Just Sean Edwards or something like that. I'm not sure how to pronounce his first name there. Actually played a year at Nebraska, just never got on the field. So it was by a player who was good enough to make the team at Nebraska, just never got any playing time. It's probably why he transferred to Houston Christian. So, but yeah, no, Nebraska performed really, really great yesterday. They performed really, really well and performed like they should have against a team like Houston Christian. 59-7 is a pretty dominant win, and it's a great win, really. Second here. I'll probably just spam call it. Anyways, so I just clear my stuff there. Anyways, it was a good win. I mean, like I said, Houston Christian got lucky once, and it's one of the things I said is, if they do score, it's going to be a lucky score. Like I said, Nebraska definitely had a huge win yesterday against a team they were definitely supposed to win. Is this going to propel us into the top 25? Probably not. Probably not. We can break down some of the stuff here in just a second. There's not a lot to say about a game like this, unfortunately, just because, well, there's not, not a whole lot of comments. We did pretty good on penalties. We only had 4, totaling 45 yards for the penalties. Houston Christian had 9, totaling 70 yards. I mean, Houston Christian only had 11 first downs. We had 30. They had 4 fumbles. We only had 1. They lost 2 fumbles. We didn't lose our 1 fumble. We averaged 8.3 yards per play. They only averaged 3. They only had 53 plays. We had 67. They only had 160 yards to offense. We had 554. I mean, you look at these stats, and we definitely dominated the game. We forced 2 fumbles. We recovered 2 fumbles. You know, as far as the tackles for loss, we had 8. They had none. For our sacks go, we had 3. They had none. For our solo tackles, they had 40. We had 34, so their number a little higher there. Solo tackles, they had 64. We had 56. The average kick return for them was 10. It was 10 yards. The average kick return for us was 28 yards. They had 4 returns. We had 1. I mean, they had 40 return yards. We had 28. Again, we also had the ball more often. Our time of possession, I believe, was significantly higher. You just go down the stats, and I mean, it was a dominant performance by the Huskers. Kudos to Houston Christian, coming out and playing us. I know they had several injuries, so hopefully those injuries to the players weren't too serious or anything like that. Hang on 1 second, I got to yell at a dog. ISIS. ISIS. Lay down. Lay down. Okay. Sorry about that. The wife's Doberman is not doing what she's supposed to be doing. ISIS. 1. What I thought. Anyways, so like I said, Nebraska did pretty good. Let's just make us look going into Michigan, though. I mean, that's what everybody's asking. I got to do some more research, but let's look at what Michigan did yesterday, or what Michigan has done so far this year. So the first game was against New Mexico, where they won 34-17. Then they lost to Oklahoma, 24-13. And then they beat Central Michigan 63-3. Now Central Michigan, it's kind of their game against Central Michigan, kind of like our game against Houston Christian. It was a tune-up game. They definitely needed after that loss to Oklahoma. This is but the Michigan game is really what's going to decide whether we're going to end up in the top 25 or not. This is going to be really, really telling. So next week's game is crucial. We're definitely probably going to be going into it as underdogs. Michigan's probably not going to fall in the rankings. They're currently 21st. I doubt they'll fall in the rankings. We're probably going to move up a little bit in the rankings, but we're probably not going to break into that top 25. How we perform against Michigan is really what's going to determine. If we don't beat them, then we need to keep close. If we do beat them, then we're definitely in the top 25. If we keep it close, we probably will end up just outside of the top 25, I'm guessing, at that point. It's hard to say what the sports writers are going to vote, as far as that stuff goes. But Michigan's already got a loss to a top 25 team, under their belt against Oklahoma. We're going into this game undefeated. They're going into this game 2-1. We're going into this game at home against Michigan. I mean, just kind of looking at that stuff, we're looking like a pretty good team this year. Michigan, it's hard to tell with Michigan right now. Do they deserve that top 25 rank? Maybe. So it's really hard to tell with Michigan where they need to be. So I'm not 100% sure as far as that goes. And it's hard to, I got to look at some more stats. I got to look at some more information and whatnot before I can make a prediction on the game. it's going to be Nebraska's first real true test of the season. And it's going to be very telling as to how Nebraska is going to do this year. Do I think this is potentially a 10-win team? Yes. Do I think it's potentially an 11-win team? Yes. Undefeated? You know, um, Michigan's really going to be where I have to, Michigan really going to tell us a lot on whether or not I'm going to be able to drink the Kool-Aid this year. I want to drink the Kool-Aid. I really want to. I wanted to for the last couple of seasons. Um, and it's been hard not to, with all the good things that have been happening at Nebraska. Yes, we're not fully there yet, but we're getting very close. So, do what, right now it's too early in the season. We haven't really had a real test, and Michigan's going to be our first real test. Um, but even then, if we do beat them, because Michigan's not where they need to be rankings wise, again, it's hard. It's hard to say. Like I said, I need to get some more data on everything, and I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself as far as that stuff goes. With that, let's talk Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford. Um, like I said, with the Husker football team this year, I mean, they're doing good. They're doing really good, and it definitely feels like there's something special brewing. But it's too soon to really tell. I'm hoping that after the Michigan game, I can be like, okay, you know what, I need to really, change myself. But let's talk Canelo versus Crawford. So, don't know if you guys watched it. I watched it simply because it looked like a really good fight. I love combat sports. Don't get to watch as much as I'd like, but hopefully in the near future, I can do a little more watching. Watch a little bit more and whatnot. So last night, um, there were some great matches. As far as the undercard and stuff, the undercard or the main card and whatnot goes for the event. However, the main reason I was watching was Canelo versus Crawford. I was definitely wanting Crawford to win. He did win. Um, it went 12 rounds. I mean, these guys were trading some pretty good blows. Yes, they were pretty calculated in um, their approach. But I mean, there at the end, it was, whew, um, it was, they were trying some, they were definitely trying to knock each other out there at the end. Um, but honestly, it looked to me like Crawford just simply outboxed um, Canelo Alvarez. And you could tell they had a lot of respect for each other at the end there, too. Some of their comments about each other. And, both of them, are two of the best pound for pound fighters, on the planet right now. Like, Terrence Crawford went up in weight class just so he could take on Canelo. Um, like I said, I was rooting for Crawford more just because he's from Nebraska, and I'm like, like I said, he did good. Mad respect for both fighters. I mean, they both fought hard. They both fought, all the way through 12 rounds. They were fighting. Like, when you take a fight like that and you take it all the way to the final bell, you know, and trading the blows that they were trading. I mean, it was, whew, the type of athleticism and the type of endurance that requires is just amazing. Um, you know, now, like I said, Crawford won. by unanimous decision. The judges' scores were, one judge scored them 116 to 112 in favor of Crawford, and then the other two scored the match 115 to 113 in favor of Crawford. Um, you know, just I mean, it was an amazing fight. It's gonna be right up there, with some of the greatest fights of all time. Exactly where it's gonna fall, I'm not sure. I mean, that's largely a matter of opinion in a lot of cases. Uh, but I could see it up there at least in the top 10. Like these men went to war, and then afterwards, they showed each other a lot of respect afterwards. They showed each other, a lot of love afterwards and respect afterwards and all that stuff. So, I mean, all around, two great individuals, two great fighters. You know, it was, I mean, like I said, it was an incredible fight. If you missed it, it is on Netflix. Check it out. Um, Definitely worth watching. You'll regret not watching it. If you're, especially if you're into combat sports and that sort of thing. Um, just an amazing fight. Um, like I said, it was just, I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, you know, let me see if there's any stats on here about it from it other than the scorecard. Doesn't look like it, so. But yeah, that's what I got to say on that. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video. I'm gonna move into my next video. And I'm gonna try and get them posted a little bit later today. We just got home from church, and the next video I'm gonna talk about a few things that were mentioned in church. And, um, it was a good day at church. Um, so with that, I'm gonna hop off. Um, as always, go Big Red. God bless, and we'll catch you in the next video. Like I said, which will be a politics one, but a little politics slash life talk one, and then probably Friday I will put out another Husker video leading up to the Michigan game. I got to do some research on that, but yep, that's what we got going on there. So, anyways, y'all have a good one, and I will catch you guys again here soon.